So Google had a bad earnings report. Microsoft had a bad earnings report. Rich people in China are worried about their money under President Xi, and Europe is forcing Apple to do something. If you think the world is falling apart, yes, yes, it is. Hey everyone, this is Chris. Welcome back to the channel, and this is your daily uncut news. So we got to talk about this. We talked about it a little bit yesterday, just updating you if you guys don't know. Microsoft had a poor earnings report, and so did Google. These companies still make money, guys. They still make money, so don't worry about that. It's just that things are slowing down, and this is expected during essentially going into recession, and it's a world recession, and our financial system is a bit questionable. I make videos about this, but just letting you know that Google, Microsoft, not so great. We're going to see how the other big tech companies come out, but I don't think there's going to be any surprises to the upside. I just don't see it. I think it's either going to be flat or not so great or really, really bad. One thing that's thing about with our stocks, it just feels like, and sometimes they'll rally for like 1 or 2%, and then as it was yesterday, it'll go down like 6%. So it's like up 2, down 6, then maybe it's like up 4, then down 8, and it's just mostly downtrending, right? And that's just sort of how it's been. But it's been really, really, really volatile. And anyone who says they're the master of that, I don't know. I think it's tough. One thing that's really interesting is Intel is going to be going public with their Mobileye company thing, and they're going IPO. I think it's an odd time to do it. This is I believe it was a Greek company before, and then Intel bought it. Now they're going to spin it off, is my understanding of this thing. And I don't have any comment on how good the technology is. Someone else may have a better idea, but my understanding was this was a self-driving kind of thing. So we'll see if it ends up being any good, if people are into buying it. But it's an interesting time to be going IPO with something like this. Your guess is as good as mine of what's going on over there. It could be just a quick money grab as fast as they can, and try to get people interested in. But like I said, I think it's a weird time to be doing it. Regarding the iPhone thing, this is probably the biggest news that's going to get buried. It won't be a headline anywhere because there's so many other crazy stuff going on in the world. But for your actual daily life, iPhone is probably going to get USB-C because the European regulations is like, yo, all phones need to have USB-C by 2024, fall of 2024. So that means not this next 2023 round, but I guess 2 years after that. Yeah, because we're in 2022 now. But essentially 2 years from now, all the iPhones are probably going to have USB-C. It's something a lot of people have been asking for, myself included. I mean, even on like your MacBooks and your Mac Studios and your Mac Pros and all these things, they all got USB-Cs. But the phones don't, which is stupid. They have that stupid lightning cable. Also, though, to be fair, Apple just wants you to do wireless charging anyway. So it's kind of a moot point, however. USB-C is better than Lightning, and I think one of the things reason why Apple was so hesitant to go that route was mostly because they had a whole bunch of accessories that they can sell you that are Lightning, and that ruins their sort of dominance on the chain. It also looks like Elon Musk is actually going to buy Twitter. It's really going to happen, is what it seems like. We're going to find out the official news by Friday. Now the question is, how much Tesla stock is he going to sell? If I were, holding large amounts of Tesla at this stage in the game, I would be feeling pretty nervous. And to be perfectly frank, I think people out there who are, listening to the Tesla pumpers all the time, I don't know what you guys are thinking. We're going into a recession. There's more competition coming, and your CEO is most likely going to dump shares on you, and is splitting his focus on taking over another company. So how is that positive? I don't know. Please tell me. But I'm sure the pumpers will come up with a way to figure out, why it's positive and why you should be buying stock that Elon Musk is selling. So that is what it is. In China, actually, it's really quite interesting. You can read the headline: wealthy Chinese shift focus from making money to protecting it. So that kind of tells you all you need to know about what's going on in China. And to be fair, though, there was a lot of volatility the day that essentially it was like that Monday, and all the Chinese stocks just crashed. And if you would have bought, perfectly timed it at the dip on one in particular, NEO, I think it went down like 20-30% and then rose back another 12. So that's a pretty good trade, but it may go back down another 20% or something like that. It's hard to read, and this is just real. We're in the realm of politics, and who knows what they're going to do. I personally, I do take the stance that it's tough to really have any faith in that stuff over in China. And I'm just being real with you. Yes, there could be opportunity, but if you guys want to see my full opinion, find the video that I did on investing in Chinese stocks. I just a couple days ago gave the full reasons of why I think it's risky and all the risks that you should know. But it's tough to be, bullish when the politics could be really, really damaging to anyone who's invested over there. So essentially, people are just pulling their money out. It's just too much, too big of a risk. And you can see here, there's a lot of money in China. I mean, look at this. This is the percentage of billionaires and in the world, I guess. And Chinese make up around 22, 23%. So Chinese people do have quite a bit of money. And they're worried about keeping it safe. So a lot of things that's been happening is they've been moving their money to Singapore, and I know this because I used to work in China, and when I left, I had to figure out how to get money out of China. And it's not that easy because you don't want to take a whole bunch of cash on the plane, and so I actually had to give it to a Chinese friend, and then my Chinese friend wired me money to the U.S. So that's something that Chinese people do, and it becomes considerably more difficult when you have like massive amounts of money, like we're talking like millions of dollars kind of thing. Like for example, if you have, say, in this case, $446 million, like if you have that much money, like how do you move money around? Well, the answer is a palladium and gold. There's a couple guys there in Hong Kong. They're essentially money laundering, these kind of things. But this happens all the time. I used to live in Shenzhen, and when you go back and forth across the border, Hong Kong, Shenzhen, there's always people carrying all kinds of crap across the border. It's hilarious. So for those of you who ever lived in Hong Kong or Shenzhen, and you've crossed that border, there's a footbridge that you walk across. You will know exactly what I'm talking about. All sorts of crazy stuff you see carrying across, and the funniest stuff is people used to carry tons of diapers because diapers are worth money. I mean, because people need these things every day, and the ones in Hong Kong were better than the ones in mainland China. The other one was baby formula, which is also a very serious thing, right? If you have a baby, you want to make sure your baby has good food, and the food was better in Hong Kong. So that stuff's worth money. iPhone's another one, but gold and palladium is a real thing, right? So it's one of the faster or an easier ways to transport large amounts of money. They had some crazy number like 8 tons of gold and palladium. So when you get to large amounts, it's hard to move around if you're trying to protect it, right? It's just too difficult, and you can't really just move cash that easily. And funny guys, it is just like the movies. It's just what you think it is. People sneaking stuff across the border. Also, too, not only do you have rich people in China worried about their money, just if you're a big hedge fund and stuff like that, and you're managing wealthy people's clients, wealthy clients' money, and they're calling your phone like, why is my money in China? Get my money out of China. I don't want any part of that. And I get it. Like I said, I get it, guys. There's people on YouTube. They're like, oh yeah, trying to run, and I was running away. And it's different for small retail investors. You only have like a few $1,000s in these things, but for people who have like significant wealth, it's just too big of a risk. And those kind of people, right? They're just trying to preserve wealth. So people with hedge funds and stuff like that, etc. But yes, if you want to take a risk and you're into risks, there's your risk to reward. So you got to do what's best for you. But like I said, my stance on it is it's just so risky, especially when you get this talk out of China that they're going to be thinking about, look at this, closer than ever to taking Taiwan. This is from them. This is all this news coming out. It's like every day it's like getting worse. And President Xi taking power even more so, and then that whole situation, Hu Jintao. If you guys watch that, it's just hard to stay positive on that stuff. And even moreover, I was like, oh my God, more bad news just keeps it coming. They're doing more lockdowns, this time in Wuhan. This is where the COVID thing all started. They said until Sunday, so who knows what that means, right? I mean, they can do whatever they want. They can say, you know what, we're going to extend it another week. We're going to extend it another week. And I think it was something like 900,000 people are affected. So, and lockdowns in China are no joke. It's like, don't leave the house, don't go to work. Only one person go outside to go get food, and sometimes they don't even let you do that. So not cool. If you're just regular Chinese person, want to relive your life, the government is really, really messing with you right now. And also too, to be fair, they really need to get out the essentially the Modernas and the Johnson stuff like that. But they've been relying on their tech, their Chinese stuff, and it just doesn't work. So it is a shame that regular people are caught both in, say, the Taiwan situation or worried about their money being frozen or whatever she's doing. It is what it is. The dollar at the moment is still strong. It is pulling back a little bit, though. You can see this here. You can see the chart for yourself. Now, we still do have a trend line. This is on compared to the euro. It's still trending up, right? But it did have a small pullback. You guys can see it for yourself. And then compared to the yen, this is the Japanese yen, it's up, almost 29%, so about 30%-ish, right? Still on trend, but has pulled back a little bit. In the U.S., the SEC is really funny. Really funny. So they're going to pass a law. They're talking about, at least what does it say here? Deceptive fund named Crackdown puts managers on edge. So, okay, it's a proposal still. I read this. I just can't remember how close they were. But basically the gist of it is that if someone like a fund, like an ETF or a hedge fund or whatever, calls itself income strategy, growth strategy, or ESG strategy, then they actually have to have funds in there that match their name, or they're going to be in trouble with the SEC. So I'll give you a simple example, guys. This is real. Two examples actually. I did a video before on it was like called the conservative fund. And the idea was that they would only invest in things that are conservative and don't touch any of that, left-wing, liberal, radical, communist stuff, right? And it was kind of funny because as I showed in the video, it's like basically it's just a marketing thing. It's not really real. It's not really conservative. And this is something that basically SEC is saying, hey, if you're going to name your fund, you can't just make up stuff. Another simple example was when Cathie Wood came out with Archivest came out with their space fund. I think they called it probably SpaceX or X Space, or it has an X in it, and space, two cool buzzwords. It didn't actually have that many space stocks in it, so that's another one, for example, because it just there's only so many stocks out there that deal with space. So anyway, I think that's an interesting one. If you call yourself a value fund, you got to put value stocks in there, etc. So basically they're trying to protect people from marketing of Wall Street, which is a real thing. The 2-year Treasury. 4.42%. It's hard to stay bullish on stocks when the treasuries are this high. It's about 4%, maybe pushing 5. The mean, the average of these things is like you guys can see here, 3. So we're well above average, and the maximum has ever been is 8. And just right now, there's a sell-off in the bond market. It's been like that for a while. We just don't have enough buyers for bonds, and there's this crazy situation where the Treasury might be selling and buying their own bonds, if that makes any sense. And it doesn't. That's the whole point. Our system seems to be out of whack, and the bond market could be a real serious thing where there's just not any buyers. So you're seeing these yields just go up like crazy. The S&P 500 P ratio, we've been watching this thing closely, guys. We're at 20 right now. Remember, the average is around 16. So it's edging up a little bit. Remember, we want lower number is better in terms of like getting a good value for your stocks. Remember, this is the price of stocks compared to how much earnings. Because I think Microsoft and Google's earnings not so great, the PE is actually going up. Plus the price of stocks went up. But I'm sure our PE ratio will come down a little bit as stocks will most likely be down this week. I just don't see how the markets would be like, oh yeah, that's so good that Google and Microsoft had missed on their earnings, etc. So that's sort of why I see. I still feel like we're expensive. I just look at the numbers for ourselves, and you want to understand our company's projecting positive or negative in the future. Speaking of which, Heineken is like, yo, things aren't so great. So basically, here's what Heineken did. If you guys know Heineken, and I'm a huge Heineken guy. I don't work for Heineken. I'm just giving them free press because it is what it is. But yeah, college, I was all about Heineken. And Heineken was always a little bit more money in the USA. The thing is interesting about them is in order to fight inflation in Europe, et cetera, they do raise prices. But what they reported is that you can raise prices, people will buy, but you can't raise it forever. There just comes a point where like, you know what, Heineken, I like you, but you're too expensive. I'm getting something else. I'm getting Corona, I'm getting Budweiser, or I'm getting whatever. So when when I was in college, and I don't know if it's like this today in USA, the cheapest beer was Rolling Rock. So if you're a Rolling Rock fan, back then it was like $1 a bottle. Please let me know. And when I was in college, it was like $6 for Heineken, $1 for Rolling Rock. But I was a Heineken drinker. I didn't like that cheap beer, but Rolling Rock was probably the most popular beer in college because it's so cheap. So there you go. Deutsche Bank and Barclays. The thing that stood out to me, there was a couple ones. So both of them, they reported they're concerned about inflation hurting consumers. And it was Deutsche Bank, this is the German one. They're actually putting money set aside for people, essentially bad loans, bad debts, etc. So I think this will be a regular theme among all the banking, is that they're just worried about the domino thing, right? I keep getting reports again with the bond market, and also with the central banks in various countries are essentially kind of figure out, okay, to control inflation, do we keep printing money, or do we stick to our word and we're going to like do quantitative tightening and no more printing, cut that off. And then the banks are always saying the same thing. Well, we can't lend money, et cetera. And the point is that when you have free money, when banks are lending money to everybody, then economy is going up and up and up. But so is inflation, right? And ultimately, things get too high, people lose their jobs, no one can pay anybody, and you got a real problem on their hands. So Deutsche Bank, they mentioned stuff like that, and we'll see. I was looking at this too. You look at rents in the USA, and this is a list of which cities are the most expensive to live. So Here's the chart. New York is number one, and I can tell you it's expensive. We were in New York. Also, we live in LA. So this these are the expensive cities. So New York is by far, I mean, 3,800 for it's like an average for one bedroom essentially. Median, not average, sorry, but median. Boston at 3,000, San Francisco at 3,000. So I didn't realize Boston was so much because I knew San Fran was quite a bit. San Jose, I also knew was quite a bit because I looked at living there. It's like really expensive. Like, true story. There was a job at university. It was Santa Clara, and I was looking at working there. Because I'm a professor, and it was just so ridiculous because it's like on a professor's salary, there's just no way you could ever live in San Jose. So I don't know how anyone can take those kind of jobs because essentially what it is, guys, if you teach at a university, right, you're making less than say if you're an engineer at Facebook, just for example. And because you need to hire people to teach these jobs, but there's certain jobs you just can't fill in places like San Jose because the tech industry drives up rents too much, and it becomes what's the right word? I guess you could say unsustainable. But if you have an area where you just have extreme wealth, how do you like get people to work at McDonald's? Just for example, and I'm talking about professor job, you can't afford to live there, let alone say working at McDonald's. And so some of our economies, like say in New York, because I was just there, and it's just so expensive, and it doesn't make sense. Nothing makes sense. I think something's gonna have to give, and I know that our housing market has been dropping lately, and it'll probably continue as rates go up. I'm not surprised. We've been in a housing bubble for quite a long time, and I think it'll definitely crash in places like Idaho. But some of these other cities, like in New York, there's still always going to be a desire to live there because there's certainly money there. It's Wall Street, of course, and there is a population that does want to live there. But we live in a world now where you can all Zoom. So this is a different, interesting world that we live in. For you video game players, this is fun. It turns out that your brain works a little bit better. We'll read the headline here. Video games linked to better cognitive skills in brain study. Research analyzed brain scans of about 2,000 children. However, the survey didn't establish cause and effect. So that's the key. So brains are working a little bit better, but we don't know if it's because of video games. It could just be people whose brains work better like to play video games. So let's read the summary and we'll see. Kids who played 3 hours or more of video games a day performed better on tests of memory and impulse control than those who didn't play video games. Frequent gamers showed more activity and higher blood oxygen levels in frontal brain regions associated with more cognitively demanding tasks, and less brain activity in regions related to vision. Wait, that's interesting. Related to vision. Let's read this again. I gotta think about this. Frequent gamers showed more activity and higher blood oxygen levels in frontal brain. Okay, that's here. Associated with more cognitively demanding tasks. So like solving puzzles in a video game, that kind of thing. Less brain activity in regions related to vision. So why would gamers have less brain activity in regions related to vision? I have to think about that. You guys tell me watching this video, what does that mean? I'm usually pretty sharp on this kind of stuff, but say brain science and video games is not my specialty. I can tell you, I can get the idea of like having high oxygen blood. Maybe it's just, playing video games and I have more elevated, activity because I have to quickly solve, puzzles and stuff like that. But less brain activity in regions related to vision. Maybe because I'm staring at a screen all the time, maybe? I'm just gander? Huh, who knows? And this one, if you don't want to talk about video games and that's not your thing, actually, this is a true story. My wife and I, we've been to Bali. It's a pretty cool place. And they're offering a new visa. If you got 130K, I think that's what it is, yeah. New visa let tourists with 130K, you can live there for 10 years. It's a 10-year visa thing. So if you want to do it, do the digital nomad thing, live on the beach. They got fast internet there, and you got 130K to prove that you can be self-sustaining. Costs are low. That's not a bad idea, and I've had friends that do that. I have one friend in particular that likes to travel a whole bunch, and when we were in Vietnam, I met a whole bunch of digital nomads. It is not a bad life, in fact, and so something worth considering, especially when you look at the price of New York City, and if you can get a New York City salary, live in Bali, live on the beach, look at these people, have a cute dog. It's not a bad life. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that and video games. Thanks again for watching. This has been your daily Uncut News.